is the Investor Connect podcast program. This is Hall T. Martin. I'm the host of the show, in which we interview angel investors, venture capital, private equity, family offices, and many other investor groups for startups and growth companies. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Thank you for joining us. Well, hello, this is Hall March with Investor Connect. Today we're here with Courtland Imel. He's a regulatory executive consultant specialized in FDA compliance and regulatory submissions, who founded Ceutical Labs to offer a rare combination of an accredited laboratory plus regulatory quality consulting under one roof. The company provides end-to-end support from development and testing through submission and audits, with its operational headquarters in Flower Mound, Texas, and an active presence on corporate channels. Courtland, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate being here.
Right. Well, what inspired you to found Ceutical Labs, and how has the mission evolved since it started?
Well, the original mission was basically to help serve people that were having problems with FDA. And actually, that message has not changed. We've been here for 24 years now, helping folks with FDA and making sure that they remain compliant.
Let's talk about industry trends. What are the key shifts you see in the pharmaceutical and biotech sectors that investors should be watching today?
I think the key shifts within the industry are moving toward a more individualized medicine routine rather than a large segment routine. And I continue to see that in a number of the medications that are coming through development because of the fact that they have very limited patient numbers associated with the development of certain medicines that we see being developed. And I continue to see the need for more of an individualized system over a large, vast population of medications.
What's the implication for those who are making medical devices or for wearables or the like? Is that impacting what they're doing?
I don't see the same impact on devices as I do on pharmaceuticals. Most of the devices that I see are for a generalized population. I continue to see a significant amount of development in devices, and I continue to help develop some of those. Like I said, I've spent my last several years in wound care and those applications as well. And we continue to make strides in each of those applications.
So let's talk about innovation. How is Ceutical Labs applying science and technology to improve product development outcomes for what you guys are doing?
Well, a number of researchers are coming to us for development of new products. And because of the fact that they're looking for new developments and new products, we're also finding new materials being available to make those things happen. And it's mind-boggling as to the number of products that we see under development. Right now, we're developing probably 25 new products as we speak, and each one of these has a brand new material in it to try to set it apart from what's already existing in the marketplace. And we're hoping for vast improvements over what's already existing in the marketplace.
Well, in addition to materials, what else is driving innovation? Are we seeing AI? Are we seeing new drug candidates? Or what do you see as the other vectors?
It's new candidates, improvements in raw materials so that certain medicines are better applied to as a cure. I also see AI being an opportunity for us to continue to develop. We have several clients that are using AI in their devices. What I've got to make sure of and verify is that the AI application is not on an open AI system where their AI systems could be hacked and lose entire credibility of their device as a result.
And how's the regulatory path for AI, based medical devices evolving? What are we seeing there? Is it coming together, and is it a challenge, or what do we see?
For an AI device, I see it remaining as a challenge because of the fact that there are so many folks that are trying to use open AI systems. But if they can use a closed AI system, that would gain rapid regulatory approval globally. FDA has already cleared probably 24 AI applications that I'm aware of, and I'm sure there's a lot more in the pipeline. And as a result, we're helping to deliver some 510Ks that are all AI based.
Okay. I used to work in the software-defined radio space, and they looked at it not as to what the device was designed to do, but what it was capable of doing. And it seemed like the AI medical devices might have the same issue. It's got a broad range of capabilities that go beyond the initial spec. And how do you manage that? Any thoughts there?
For us, whenever we're applying for an AI specific device, you're absolutely correct. You have to have a very narrow scope for the device to work. And if there's a second and third and fourth generation, that would be another application in order to submit to the agency for a new 510K on that same platform. And that's the scope that we are applying to each of these applications that we're working on. Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely, there are multiple avenues for these applications. And, as a matter of fact, one of the devices that we're working on right now probably has 200 applications. And I'm sitting down saying, all right, guys, time out. We've got to focus on one. Let's get the first one cleared. And then we will move to the second revision.
Gotcha. So you're an investor too, and I was always wanted to ask you what attracts you to certain investment opportunities in the health and the life science space.
I invest in things that I believe in. And as long as I can believe in it and see it, then I will invest in it. If I can't see it and I don't understand it, I will avoid it.
And so, how do you achieve conviction on a startup deal? In the life science, I found that the technology is important and the team is important. You have to have those two. But what else is there?
It's an understanding of what you're trying to achieve and how to go through the regulatory pathway and what the final product will look like in the marketplace. As long as those things make sense, then I'm happy to provide our services and our financial support. If those things don't make sense, then we will provide our support from a contract basis and try our best to get somebody over the finish line.
We deal with a lot of companies in the life science space on the FDA path. And of course, everybody wants to go to market and be a pharmaceutical company. And we often try to wave them off of that, given the cost of doing that and the risk of actually getting there. When do you think is the ideal time to sell the business?
To me, what I continue to see, and over the course of my career, once you achieve FDA approval and you're ready to go to the marketplace because of the cost of marketing and distribution, typically that's a prime time to try to initiate a sale of the business. Prior to that, if you've achieved phase 3 clinical support for phase 3A, that to me would be another good time to sell. Other than that, go to market and achieve what you can and continue going. And, eventually you'll have prospectors out there looking for your company.
Well, great. Well, that leads us to our next question around scaling. If you decide to go to market, what do you think is the biggest obstacle for labs and biotech startups when, moving into that growth phase and starting to scale up?
I think the biggest challenge most companies have is associated with the right talent and verifying that you have the right talent on the team. And then secondly, it would be financially supported in order to achieve marketplace opportunities.
Okay. And is that hiring the right people or building the right structure or partnering with the right groups or all of the above? Where does that come into play?
I think it would be all the above, partnering with the right people, having the right people on the bus, and making sure that your investors are fully committed to what you're trying to achieve.
Great. So, that brings us to the next one, which is strategic partnerships. Having the right collaborations with universities, research institutions, and corporate groups to help you get there. How do you go about building those relationships?
Personally, I think it takes time and a lot of reach in order to find the right partners that you want to work with. For us, I mean, we've been in business for 25 years, so therefore we know who to go to and who not to go to. We know that there are investment groups that are happy to be involved, and there are those that cannot respond within any certain given time limit. So it makes it rather difficult. Same way with the academic researchers as well. And with the change in personnel at the universities, it makes it, slightly that much more difficult to make sure that you have the right researchers involved in your project.
Do you see universities continuing to push more in this area, or do you see them pulling back based on budget cuts and other issues?
I think it depends on the university and what the university has in its portfolio and reserves. I see some universities moving forward fast and others having to push back. A lot of the private schools I see having the monies available, and a lot of the state schools are pulling back a little bit.
Mhm. Okay. Well, let's talk about the regulatory pathways out there. How do you see the FDA and the European and other regulations shaping the landscape for these therapies? What's going on there?
Personally, I think the FDA has gone through a major shift. I'm hoping that we will return back to being the gold standard again. I know that the FDA lost a lot of talent in this most recent budget change. Europe has always led the way since the mid 90s. And to me, it's time for a change. It's time for the US to take over that gold standard again. I know that the US has a much better application for clinicals, whereas Europe is much more based on product performance. So it makes a very clear difference as to where you need to go forward and how you need to go forward in the marketplaces. If you have a new product, I always recommend going to the rest of the world before you hit Europe and the US to show performance before you actually enter those major marketplaces.
Good point. So, you see a lot of startups out there in this space. What do you see them doing to be capital efficient with their fundraise? Any strategies around managing the R&D budget while continuing to innovate?
One of the things I unfortunately see in a number of startups is the fact that they put dollars into the wrong places and not necessarily back into the product development, but new R&D, as you just kind of mentioned, because they have, a certain member of their investment group that is asking questions rather than saying, all right, we're going to stay the course and let's get this product through the regulatory pathway before we start something new.
And so I hear some countries like Australia offer credits and so forth, and they're lower cost on actually doing some of the clinical trials. You think that's a trend that will continue around other countries?
That trend has been going on for quite a while with a number of different countries. Australia was probably the largest one to move in that direction. I'm not going to say it's always feasible to go to Australia, but it does make a greater impact on the overall process. Absolutely.
Okay. So let's talk about the ecosystem. How is Ceutical Labs contributing to and benefiting from the broader biotech and healthcare community out there? What do you see going on with the ecosystems that you guys deal with?
Right now, I continue to see the Boston area and the Bay Area contracting, and I continue to see Texas expanding. It's interesting to work with folks in the Boston area because of the fact that there are several locations that are expanding and many, many that are contracting. And the same way with the Bay Area, you have one or two or five companies that are expanding and the rest are contracting. Whereas here in Texas, I continue to see major expansion and I'm grateful for it. I think with the change in the last 2 years, we've really seen an increase. And I'm also seeing this increase coming from offshore. We're seeing several folks from Brazil and Mexico, Colombia, and Argentina wanting to bring products into the US at a greater increase than I've seen in the last 5 years.
What's attractive about Texas? Why are they coming to Texas and not the coast like they used to?
I don't know. I really wish I knew, other than the fact that, here in Texas, we have a better, stronger economy. We have a lot more educated individuals in the biotech space, and they're underutilized.
Well, several physicians come from the Bay Area to Dallas, and they were stunned by the low cost. Things were just lower cost, real estate, lab space, everything was just lower cost, and thought that would really drive a lot of people here. And at some point, I think that that's true across the board for all industries. There's more people coming to Texas just because there's a more affordable lifestyle. But I didn't know if there was anything else, more trained personnel or anything like that that might be driving it.
Well, I also think CPRIT is helping to bring and attract folks into Texas as well.
Okay.
There are several folks that moved down from the Twin Cities, Minneapolis, Minnesota, into Texas and settled in Austin. There are several folks that I know of that have moved from the Bay Area into Texas, San Antonio, and Houston in order to increase and expand their opportunities. They were having problems with investment in California, and that was the reason why they moved here to Texas, because they were able to find new investment. Same way with the folks from the Twin Cities. They moved to Texas in order to find investment.
That's great. So let's talk about, Ceutical Labs in the next 5 years. What do you see as the opportunities ahead for you?
For us, we're going to continue to expand in our capabilities. We're going to continue to provide services, and we will continue to increase those services as we go forward. Critical for us is going to be getting deeper into validation and document control to provide our clients with services that they need.
That sounds great. Sounds like it's going well for you guys. The last few minutes that we have here, what else should we cover that we haven't?
I just look forward to the increase in opportunities. I appreciate everything that you're bringing to the table, and we've worked with several of the folks that have come to you, and it's interesting to see how we're able to move to that next level with some of them, and I appreciate those opportunities.
Great. So how best for listeners to get back in touch with you?
You can reach me either by telephone at 972-241-8374, or you can email info@ceutical-labs.com.
We'll include those contact details in the show notes. I want to thank you for joining us today and hope to have you back for a follow-up soon.
Thank you, Hall. Appreciate your time.
Investor Connect helps investors interested in startup funding. In this podcast series, experienced investors share their experience and advice. You can learn more at investorconnect.org. Paul T. Martin is the director of Investor Connect, which is a 501c3 nonprofit dedicated to the education of investors for early stage funding. All opinions expressed by Hall and podcast guests are solely their own opinions and do not reflect the opinion of Investor Connect. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be relied upon as a basis for investment decisions.